Happy morning, everyone. A warm and hearty welcome to this session on with the successful startup founder. Let us begin the session with by invoking God's blessing. I call upon Ms. Pushpalata ma'am to lead us in the prayer.
My screen is visible, prayer screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Sujata. Scripture portion is taken from Isaiah chapter 40, verses 29 and 30. He gives power to the weak and to those who have no might. He increases strength. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks to the Lord. Wait, Sujata, prayer song.
Dear St.Ann, loving mother, we have gathered to sing your praise. Lead us, mother, gentle mother, teach us children your loving ways. Dear Saint Anna, loving mother, we have gathered to sing your praise. Lead us, mother, gentle mother, teach us children your loving ways.
Thank you, Pushpa ma'am. People often designate being an entrepreneur is like sitting on a tiger. But the people who rides on it only know how risky and scary the journey will be. But these kind of fears can be overcome by having an interactive and mentoring sessions with the successful startup founders. The studies have shown these kind of interactions with an entrepreneur have greater positive impact on budding entrepreneurs when compared to an interaction with the non-entrepreneurs. Hence, the main objective of this session is to overcome the fear, unleash the hidden talents, boost them with a positive energy, and build confidence that they are moving in the right direction. So we have with us Ms. Samhita ma'am, founder of Pro Squad and Vice President of CI MSME Telangana State, to share her experiences and interact with us. So girls, make the maximum utilization of this opportunity. I welcome you, ma'am, with a green greeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Sujata. That was a very warm welcome. And hello, everybody. And I'm so glad to be interacting with you today. And I hope I can give you some insights on entrepreneurship and open up more horizons for you to look at entrepreneurship as a viable career option after you graduate from St. Anne's. So let's begin. A little bit about me is that...
Ma'am, now I welcome Nasreen, the Faculty Department of Nutrition, to give a brief profile of Samhita ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Ms. Samhita. Welcome to St. Anne's and this session, ma'am. Ms. Samhita is a multi-qualified financial professional and entrepreneur by passion. She holds global certifications such as CIA, CFE, and CIMA, and has gained multitude of experience working with global firms in finance sector. Risk management in finance sector, risk management, due diligence and valuation are some of her areas where she specializes in. She's incorporated Bill Me Later, a fintech company that works around the concept of credit lending for users who are ineligible for traditional credit. The company closed a deal with Bengaluru-based company for takeover with a valuation of 300% cost to sale. Ms. Samhita believes in empowering women through entrepreneurship and has proactive in-hand holding multiple enterprise that are run by women across various sectors. She has been able to provide invaluable support to diverse businesses through her consulting firm ProSquad. The firm supports economic growth of small-scale businesses to radically improve their functions so as to gain more synergy and ultimately add more value to the industries that they operate in. ProSquad is one of the fastest growing consulting firm with a large client base spread across the world. Ms. Samhita is passionate about all things finance and is a proactive member in making people financially literate by spreading awareness about financial management and throwing focus on basics of business. Among other achievements, Ms. Samhita is an honorary vice president of CIMS-ME, Telangana State, and is also the youngest to receive the Brand India Award presented by the Global Council for Promotion of International Trade. Without further ado, I invite Ms. Samhita to start the session, please. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Nasreen. So is this going to be a Q&A session?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
This will
so
be.
at what point can people ask me questions, the participants?
They can raise hand if they would want to, and then the admin would, just unmute them so that they can ask the questions.
Okay, that works. That works.
Right.
That's
Ma'am,
okay.
can we have your video on because we are not able to view you?
Oh, you're not able to see me. I'm so
No.
sorry. I thought it was under
No
your
problem.
admin control.
Was it? Yeah. Yeah, we can see you now.
Okay, you
Hello.
can see me now. Hi. Hello. But I can't see anybody else. Is that how it's supposed to be?
No, maybe it depends upon the view in which you're viewing. So
Okay. That's okay. As long as you can see me, and this is working fine, right?
Right, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So can we have the presentation if on the screen?
1 second, ma'am.
Sure. I can see Miss Pushpalata right now.
My screen is visible, ma'am?
Yes, it is.
I'll make it full screen. Okay. Is it okay, ma'am?
I don't see it moving.
PPT is not displayed. Only
Yeah, it's
just
not
your
open yet.
your downloads page is open, but your PPT is not visible.
Is it displaying on the screen, Sujata?
Ma'am, downloads is displayed, but your PPT, what you're trying to open, it is not displayed.
Okay,
You're
wait.
not able to see the
1 minute.
Are most people here from doing BBA?
No, ma'am. There we have got a variety of students. There are some students from nutrition also. I teach nutrition, so I've invited my students as well.
Oh, that's
because many of them are interested in having their own startups one fine day.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful.
So there are BBA students. There are many students, ma'am, from all faculties.
All combinations, yes, ma'am. All
that's
faculties.
great. That's great. That's wonderful.
Is it okay, ma'am?
Yeah, now I can. Now it's on screen. Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be fairly informal, so that it's so that people can interact with me, ask more questions. I'm looking forward to answering more than giving more insights, because I know that right now with the ongoing situation, it's always better to be self-sufficient than to rely on going for a job. But let me tell you, before I started my own firms, both the companies, I was also working with a number of consulting firms to gain more knowledge in terms of implementation of my own startups, right? Because before you channelize your output, you also have to have an outline of how you want to cater to the existing environment. And that's why it's very important for you to have work experience, and which is why, and a good time to do that would be, say, during your summer vacation or right after you graduate from college. And I assume most people right now, I mean, I'm talking to right now, are doing bachelor's, correct?
Some are doing bachelor's, some are doing their masters.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, entrepreneurship itself is a very is not. I wouldn't say it's risky, but it's a decision that you do that you make after doing something called as a calculative risk. Right. At what point do you jump onto the entrepreneurship boat? Really can define make or break for you. So I both my firms that I started happened to be in the service sector and not in the manufacturing sector. And that means that my approach towards business itself is quite different from, say, somebody who was going to operate in the manufacturing sector. And that defines where you start, and that defines who your customer base is going to be, your client base is going to be, and how you're going to reach them. So since both my entities were service-based, they were still very different in terms of what the final output was going to be. My first startup was called Bill Me Later, and that's a product-based company, but the product itself was intangible. So you can start the presentation. Yeah, thank you. So so Bill Me Later is an app-based platform where it's I don't know, I'm not quite sure how many people have used Lazy Pay over here, but Lazy Pay is now active on a number of platforms, including Swiggy, Zomato, and all that, where they let you get credit for a payment, a small ticket payment of, say, 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, and you can later, at a later point in time, pay them back. And this product was also around the same idea. And what triggered me to even start this in the first place was that a number of people, despite the digital movement in India for cashless payments, a number of people were still unable to move into digital payment sector. They were still very hesitant in making payments through credit cards, through debit cards, or through UPIs. So what we realized is that, but everybody has a phone nowadays, and everybody is very comfortable using a mobile phone. So we thought of coming up with an app-based model where it's with a one-touch click, and it was only going to be operational in supermarkets at first. So we had tied up with a number of supermarkets based in Hyderabad, where most people who would go and have a average ticket size of, say, 600, 700 rupees were able to pay using this particular app without having to pay through UPI or debit card or credit card, anything of that sort. What initially prompted us was the fact that most of the housewives or people who were unemployed were not able to get access to digital payments, and we wanted to tap that market. And one thing that you should always realize is that in order to make it big or make it successful, you always tap the potential in a place that's not tapped. In a marketplace where there already exist a lot of players, there's hardly much you can do. Either you do something that's extremely better done compared to what existing players are doing, or you do something completely different than what people are doing right now. And the third viable option is to tap a market where nobody has touched. And nobody had touched the market where housewives would go to a supermarket to buy groceries, or to go and buy, small ticket items like milk or daily vegetables, things like that. These are physical places where many people go. So there's a lot of footfall in these places, like supermarkets like Vijeta, Heritage, and so on. And most people still would give cash instead of, say, use digital payments. And apart from that, there's college students. College students typically do not have a credit card. They might have a debit card, but not a credit card. Because credit card is usually given to people who have a stable income. That's what banks look for. And debit card is what our main competitor was, and not credit cards, because what we were looking to do is that we were looking to replace cardless transactions and not just cashless transactions, so that you have the power to pay wherever you can go without even carrying a card in your hand. And that was what we were looking at in the long term. So two main customer segments that we had identified initially was one with housewives, being, making regular trips to supermarkets and other places like that, and college students who would say go to places like Cafe Coffee Day or any other, smaller eateries and bakeries and things like that. So we had also launched a pilot program for Bill Me Later in CMR College, which is situated in Hyderabad, and it went really well because and we had also tied up with a number of local shops and in and around that particular college, so as to attract the college students that would regularly eat and dine over there. And we noticed that a number of students, the highest number of students would pay using Paytm, because that was very convenient. You load your cash into the wallet and then you make the payment. But that's a two-step process, and we wanted to sort of make it a one-touch option. I'll continue. Okay. Okay, so what we had done is that we targeted those two segments, and we gathered what is called as a database, right? Database is where you start analyzing the patterns in which people spend, how much they're spending, what are they buying even, and things like that. So that's where data analytics comes into picture, and you start kind of getting more info on how to make your app better or how to make your product better. And without data, you honestly cannot make good decisions, right? Whether small or big. And that we needed data in order to make this app itself a better product. And that's where, I think your team comes into place. What kind of team you employ with yourself or work with you really plays a crucial role in how you take your product to the next level. If you are not able to be in the same sync as the other people, then your ship just sinks. And that's something that's very unfortunate. And a lot of people have complained, especially startup founders, is that they're not able to find the right team. And building team is a very core activity that any startup founder would struggle with initially, because there's a number of things that you require, and not everybody is going to be well versed. However, what is very crucial and what can work well for you is that if you share a common goal between your team, whether they are able to do well for you or not, you will still be able to get the output that you want. So it's very important that you share the vision amongst your team members, amongst your key people. And of course, as a startup founder, you don't have too many people that you can rely on anyways, right? You have mostly, say, a team of 5 or 6 when you start. And then you slowly start building as and when you start generating revenue, you start hiring more resources. So that's how that works. And research, development, pilot, and data analytics, and then the team, that is what we had approached in this particular startup. And not every startup is going to work the same. That is one thing you should remember. And not every approach is going to be the same. Something that, say, I had adopted for this particular startup may not work for you at all. In fact, you might have to do the reverse in some cases of my approach. And so that's something that we had done over time. It obviously it was not smooth sailing, and it took us, I think, 1.5 years to sort of get our team in place. And it was a big task. More than the product itself, we had a lot of issues with resources, with people that we were working with, because they were just not able to understand what the ultimate output should be. And that is what is, when you lack clarity, you don't even know what the output should be. You don't know what you're working on. And so you'll always have a deficient product in hand, which is not going to deliver. And so it's very important that you make everybody aware and everybody crystal clear about what the output of your product or your service should be. And so that was the credit card market in India in when we had started, was in the year 2017. And we are just prepared. So these are all in terms of research. You do a very thorough research of the market that you're going to tap into, or the initial sort of overview of which way you're going. That's when you kind of realize that, you know, there is a potential here, or there's a saturation here. How do you realize that, you know, a certain market is doing well or not? Is through research, and everything is now available online. All of these information is available online. How you collect data and how you do the research and how you put it across over the table is really a very crucial part of ideation. When you have a startup, you have something called as the ideation phase, where you brainstorm a lot, and you are constantly thinking about an idea which may or may not work. You never know, but you're always thinking about it wherever you go, and you think this is a great idea, but who's going to, you know, tell you that this is going to work or not? For that, you kind of have to ask around, talk to people, and take opinions. Not people who are you know, just your friends and all that, but also people who are experts, or somebody that you think is going to be a key contact in that particular area. And I think that is what would really add value to your perspective. Sometimes your perspectives will change completely after you take their opinion. And why that is important is that viability or feasibility of an idea can really determine whether you're on the right track. Sometimes the most silly ideas can turn into great startups, and you never know, right? You never know what can hit the park and what cannot, unless you try. But you try in a very calculative way, and don't just go into it just because everybody's going into it. I know for a fact that a lot of startups that I have been closely in contact with have gone into liquidation over the recent times, because of the ongoing situation where people are not able to focus. There's a lot of disturbance in terms of business flow and all that. But that's when, you know, you have to kind of do something called as a business restructuring, where you do re-engineering of processes, and you do re-engineering of situations, analyze the situations and adapt accordingly. And that's why it's very important to always have awareness of what's happening around you, what is going to come in the future, and that's called market awareness. And as a startup founder, you cannot just be focused on your business alone. You also have to keep track of what's happening around you and around your business. So that's extremely important. Our product was mainly in the fintech area, in the fintech domain, which was pretty much at that point in time fairly new. Most people who were the players were either LazyPay and Simple. You can see on the screen, if we can skip the slide further, we can go further.
Further one.
Yeah.
Is it okay, ma'am?
No, there's one more slide. I'll show you again. Yeah, so these were the competitors that we were going neck to neck with, SimplePay and LazyPay, and these were basically what we had to compete with when we first launched. LazyPay is a sister concern of a very big payment online portal, which meant that they have a lot of cash to burn and we didn't. Whether it's on advertising or portal building or anything of that sort. is that when you're a startup founder, unless you are, say, a second or third generation entrepreneur, you typically have very shallow pockets. You don't have a lot of deep pockets. And so you have to be very, very wary of where you spend your money as a startup founder. And we obviously could not go very aggressive on marketing or put, social media ads and things like that. That happened later, but definitely not as much as, say, these particular players were able to do. And for the sole reason that we were startups and we were not being funded. And so that's one thing. So funding is an important aspect that can really determine how you're spending your money and what you're spending it on. Despite getting funded, some startups always mess up the way that they spend their money, and that is because most startups do not have a budget. And it's very important to plan out your expenses and your revenue before your funding comes in, because that can really, really put you on the right track. So you can track your expenses, you can track your revenue, and at a later point in time, you can also sit down and analyze where you've spent too much or where you've spent too little based on the situation, right? And that's something that, again, it comes with time, it comes with experience, and obviously everything is not going to be as easy as it is in the textbooks. Because I know for a fact that most people think, okay, profit and loss statement, let's draw it up, because based on how it is in the textbooks. But when in reality, it's not as simple, it's not as easy as how it is, say, in theory. In theory, it's always, debit what comes in, credit what goes out, and all that. But it's honestly not as simple as that. And you will know that, once you are on ground working and on ground dealing with real money, dealing with people. And that's something that is really worth experiencing. I think everybody should take up at some point or another some or the other thing that's going to be entrepreneurial. It's a very refreshing perspective that you get about business, about life in general, and it teaches you a lot. So that's that. But this is where we were at in terms of doing our buy now pay later fintech company, which is called Bill Me Later. At a later point in time, when we finished our pilot with that particular college, and also like in some housing societies where we primarily targeted housewives, we had gathered some data. And so the data that we had gathered, we were using to make the app better, to bring out a better product ultimately. And then what happened is that we were asked by a lot of companies to share the data, of course, for a price, because data is money. And we were not willing to. And that's a choice that you make as a founder or as a startup owner, what you want to share and what you don't want to share with anybody for a price again. So it's very important that you realize the value of what you own or the value of what you have developed over time. Because you might think you've not done much. And I honestly did think that I had not done much. But when I started hearing from people that, oh, we're ready to buy it out, or we're ready to, pay you this much for the kind of product you have, that's when you realize, oh, it's actually not that bad. Because as startup founders, you're often thinking, of course, you have to be very optimistic as startup founders, but at the same time, you also have to be very, very wary of the fact that there are so many people doing a very similar thing. And most likely it is that they will have probably done a better job because they have more funding, or they have been in the market for longer. But you realize later on is that there is always a possibility of a takeover by these bigger players with the smaller players. And that's essentially what happened to this particular company. We were asked multiple times by multiple companies for a takeover, and we had finally agreed with a Bangalore-based company sometime in 2000. You can just go, you can just skip to the not last slide, but you can just go forward. on the slideshow.
One more slide, ma'am.
Yeah, one more. Yeah.
Is it okay, ma'am?
This is also, you can skip this also.
This one?
No. Okay, can I have the access to the, can I do that? Is that possible on Zoom? Yeah, this is fine. You keep this.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So this is basically how my first venture ended, is that we raised a seed funding, and we had signed across 160 clients in Hyderabad itself. And by clients, I mean like physical outlets. And one thing I was really, really glad about was that all of this happened right before the pandemic hit us. Because if it wasn't for that because if it wasn't for that kind of timing, we would have suffered a lot of losses, because we are all seeing that there is lockdown persisting even right now, which means that your possibility or probability of walking into a retail store has minimized by a lot compared to, say, what it was in 2019 or earlier than that. Early 2020 was when we were exposed to something called as lockdown, and your access to buying things was primarily dependent mostly on e-commerce or online transactions and not in retail outlets. And our product was primarily supposed to be used in retail outlets. So we were very glad that we were able to sign this particular contract with the takeover company in Jan 2020, which was before the lockdown. So I think timing plays a very big role. If we had, say, let it be and prolonged the existence in the market or sustenance in the market, then we would have been badly hit by the situation that came about after March 2020. And so in that sense, we were extremely, extremely relieved. So that was the fate of this particular venture that I first started. After a while, actually, to be honest with you, while I was doing this, I was also running a consulting firm under the name of Pro Squad. And that is what my consulting wing is. Since I am a qualified professional, I have been able to gain a multitude of certifications for financial problems to solve financial issues for a lot of companies in and around India. And I've had experience in working with consulting firms, like I said, before starting my own ventures. So I decided to start my own consulting firm side by side while I started this particular venture called Bill Me Later. And that particular company was still doing okay. We can just go forward. Yeah, this is the second company. And like I told you in the earlier today, that though both of the companies are service sector companies, both the outputs differed a lot, because one was still product based and the other is entirely service based. This particular company is completely service based, where what you do is basically give service to your client. That is not the case with the previous company. That was a product based company. You are basically providing a platform or an app to the user to carry forward. It's a self-service model. This, however, is not. This, however, is basically sitting down with the client, understanding their requirements and catering to their requirements. And so the way you make both of them function is entirely different, despite both of them being a service sector, um, being in service sector industries. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. As most people here may be. Somebody has a question. Okay, so most people here, since you all are aware of how businesses work and all that, it's very important to define what your vision and mission is, like I told you earlier also. So when you have a consulting firm, and there's so many in India, right? Because India is very high on service sector. Majority of our income that we generate as a country is through service sector. So me being financially literate and having exposure in the financial services, I decided to start my service entity in the same domain. And there are so many in India, right? Right from big fours to smaller entities, where there's traditional chartered accounting firms here, there, everywhere in the country. And it's what makes us different is that we've made a very different, unique approach in terms of catering to the client. Is that everything is online, everything right from getting a query to even giving you a deliverable is entirely online, and there is honestly no physical approach required. And this happened much before the pandemic started, and this was in motion way before people started migrating entirely to online or e-platforms like webinars, seminars, and everything. By I think December 2019, we had about 120 clients that were associated with us, which were under the MSME category. They were, and all of them whom I had never met in person, of course, and we had interacted only through, say, Google Meets or through phone calls or WhatsApp calls and things like that. So that is one thing that I realize, is that despite the pandemic, we were not affected at all with this particular entity. And however, I'm super grateful for having gotten rid of the other entity much before the pandemic, because you have to realize that not all businesses would have been affected by the pandemic. For example, most supermarkets were not affected because of the pandemic, because they sell a lot of essential goods. And so their businesses would still be up and running compared to, say, car showrooms or clothing showrooms. So this particular entity, since everything was already being done online, did not get affected even a slight bit. And most people just happen to, call even more very often compared to, say, earlier, that it was, say, once in a month, but then the frequency of it increased over time. And that was how we had sort of gotten a hold of our existing clients, and we were able to target more clients, because during the lockdown, a lot of people wanted to begin their own businesses, because so as to become, say, self-sufficient over the pandemic, because most people were being retrenched, or they were being paid half their salaries. And so a lot of people were in financial distress. So that's when a lot of people had wanting to start their own proprietorship or something of that sort. So it's very important that you realize what people want to do, or what a majority of the clients want to do, or what's being happening in the market because of the government restrictions or because of the ongoing situations. So as in when you begin a certain business, you have to sit down and constantly think about what's called as a business plan. Of course, a business plan, as in theory, would be the first step to starting a business. However, a business plan is a recurring thing that you should have in mind. And a recurring plan, a business plan is never static, and it always keeps evolving with time. What your business plan, say, looks right before you start your business would look completely different in, say, 5 or 6 months after you start. And that's because you start understanding the different forces that are working around your organization or within your organization. And you have to tailor your business or tailor your services or products in order to suit those forces. And if you can just move a little bit forward, the slide. So what makes us different is that, like I said, ours was entirely online. And another thing is that we mainly focus on the product itself and not on the issue. The issue could be the same across the industry, but what makes us different is our approach towards solving the issue, and why people come back to us, or why people stay with us over a period of time, is because we're always very time conscious in terms of delivering the product. And that's where your, say, core competence comes in. Core competencies are a set of competencies that you develop over time while you do your business, whether it's a product based business or a service based business. You will realize that these are your strong points, and those are usually your core competencies, and you build on them over time. And for us, it was timely delivery, extremely quality conscious deliverables, and client interaction. And all three of them happened online. There was no manual or there was no physical intervention at any point in time, and that is what makes us different. If anybody has already started a startup or is already running a business, you would know that there is a set of legal compliances that you have to do for your business. And for that, you will have to depend on an accountant or a chartered accountant or something of that sort, who would typically sort out your taxes or your returns and things like that. All of which we would give as a complimentary as a complimentary service for having stuck with us. And those are the kind of things that you come up with, the kind of you know um, services that you give. As I know that it sounds weird when it comes to services, it's not like buy one get one free, like you go buy a toothpaste from a store. But with services also, you kind of have to come up with certain innovative ideas in order to keep the customer with you or keep the client with you, by doing certain initiatives, taking certain initiatives, and keeping in touch with the customer on a personal level, on a more interactive basis than just say, oh, you want your tax return filed, so I'll do it for you. That's a very plain approach, and that usually doesn't make any impression. However, if you sit down and you call the client and tell them that, oh, this is what you want to do, but look at it from the long term perspective, they will actually realize that you are there to help them and not just give service to them. So there's a very different approach to doing the same thing. There's multiple people doing the same thing in multiple different ways. And what will really make you stand out is by showing your core competencies at every level of providing service. If we go a little forward. Yeah, so here I'll tell you is that initiatives and milestones, tracking your initiatives and milestones go hand in hand in terms of how you shape up your business over a period of time. Over a period of time, I am very sure that you will get recognized in a small way, in a big way, it doesn't matter. But each time you get recognized, you must understand that it's an added responsibility for you to do better and to do much better than what you were doing earlier, which is why you were being recognized in the first place. So these are milestones that you have to keep for yourself or your business to do better in terms of delivery, in terms of the output, in terms of the quality, and overall just being taking your business from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, whichever level you're at. And side by side, I think what's very important is to give back to the society. And of course, most businesses are not, say, not-for-profit organizations. Most businesses happen to be with profit motive and with a high profit motive. Otherwise, why would we want to do business, right? It's very important that you sort of give back to the community or give back in any manner. It doesn't matter. Even if you wanted to give in terms of money, you could. In terms of services, you could. But in terms of, say, being interactive with the community itself in which, say, you operate is much more effective than just giving money back to the community, right? So we had come up with a lot of initiatives, and the recent one that we've done is for this Women's Day, which happened in March. We gave away 100 registrations for free for sole proprietorships in order to encourage women to start their own businesses, whether it's a small idea or a big idea. And that really, I think it gives them a lot of courage and confidence to pursue whatever interest that they have. There's some people making candles. There's some people practicing legal services, as being lawyers, whatever it is. But it really is up to you. But wanting to start a business should never be a dream itself, and you should start living the dream. And that is why we had started along with Miss Praveena Tota. She is one of my mentors, and we had come up with this particular initiative along with CIMSFE to give 100 registrations for free for women entrepreneurs. So that was one of the initiatives. That these things are where you kind of create your visibility in the market, and also engage with the community that you are surviving in or you're operating in. These things will go much further in reality compared to, say, keeping aside a certain amount of funds and giving it off to a certain entity for charitable purpose and all that. And with regards to awards and achievements, like I said, it's really about how much vision you have for any enterprise that you have. And anything that you start will always go as much as you envision it to go. Because sky is the limit for you. And as women, we're all expected to multitask. Whether you're married or unmarried, you're a child, not a child, whatever it is, you're always expected to multitask, and it's very difficult. It will get difficult further on, but that wouldn't ever stop you as a woman, and you would always continue to succeed in no matter what you do. And just taking the first step has always been the difficult step, because once you take your first step, everything you anyways have to walk. Now, whether you walk, run, or sprint, it is really dependent on you. And how further you go really depends on how much you want to run. And so that has been my journey so far. And now I'm open to questions. So if anybody wants to ask me, or I'll ask questions, anything would work.
Thank you so much, Ms. Samhita, for your inspiring journey. It was really, I'm sure, this was an eye opener, for many of our students, and I hope your experiences are going to help them chart out their own journey, and it'll make things more clearer in their minds now. The platform is open for questions. Students, please ask your questions. Poppy, can they unmute themselves and ask, or they need to raise hands?
Yes, they can unmute themselves.
Yes, you can do that, but just ask questions. Questions, anybody?
Good morning, ma'am.
I think somebody's talking, but it's very faint.
Yeah. So who said good morning?
Good morning, ma'am.
Please introduce yourself.
Ma'am, I am Afreen from BBM final year.
Yes, Afreen, go on.
Ma'am, I have a question. Suppose that an individual wants to start a business entirely online. How can you suggest few measures to overcome the glitches or the problems that they have in terms of customers or anything as such in online?
So when it comes to online, is it going to be a product that you're selling? Is it a tangible product or an intangible service that you'd be giving? That's one thing you want to understand. If it's a product, as in if you're selling a physical product, you will anyways have a customer base. So one thing that you have to keep in mind is channels of distribution, they're called. Channels of distribution for products are very different from that to services. For a product-based seller, you can look at options like Amazon, Flipkart, and other existing e-commerce platforms that will help you sort of list your product on their website. If not, you can also have your own website set up. If it's a service-based organization, you will have to set up an you can just set up an online website, which shouldn't be a big deal, because anyways you don't have to check out on the cart. When it comes to a product, there's something called a supply chain. You must be aware of. You're a business student, right, Afreen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you must be aware of what a supply chain is, how products move from one chain to another. So in order for you to place, when you place an order online for user experience, somebody at the back end will pack the product, will ship the product, and then deliver the product to the consumer. And that entire chain is what is called a supply chain. And when you're setting up an e-commerce setup, these are things that you want to keep in mind. There are many players that are in each level of chain, and you will choose based on what is convenient for you, where your warehousing will take place, or where your product is going to get shipped from. Will you be taking care of everything end to end? So these are things that you would want to typically keep in mind. For beginners, it's very easy to use, say, Amazon. Amazon also has an entirely separate database for MSME or people who are starting up. You can also see Amazon Launchpad sometimes when you go to Amazon, is that they try to push like newly launched products or products that are fairly very new in the market. So you can contact Amazon, you can just write to them, they respond pretty fast. So this is one viable option. And once you get some amount of revenue, you can obviously look at setting up your own e-commerce. And with e-commerce, I think a very good way to sort of complement your presence online is to start doing something called as search engine optimization and things like that, they all fall into the category of digital marketing, because you will be catering to your customers entirely online through an e-commerce channel. It's very important that you also contact your customers online using, say, Instagram or YouTube ads or things like that. So those things can work with regards to pushing your product further into the market, or initially launching your product into the market.
Ms. Samhita, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, how important is digital marketing and advertising for startups, and where can they begin?
Digital marketing in itself is such a vast area, right? And honestly, you can begin anywhere and end anywhere, to be very honest with you. But a good place to start would be having an Instagram handle or a Facebook page where you're also giving a channel to interact. Somebody has a question regarding your product or regarding your service, they should also be able to ask you that question at that point in time. And that is possible, of course, through a website in itself. But despite having a website, what happens is you're also lacking the reachability. If you have a website set up, how do you begin, advertising about the website itself is in question. Of course, you can go to your WhatsApp and start a broadcast or share your website as your status and things like that. But that will still reach a limited set of audience, and it's not going to reach an entire, say bigger set of audience. And that will happen if, say, you are able to target, say, 100 customers in 3 months. So there are a lot of digital marketing agencies that will guarantee that you have a certain number of leads generated. Of course, that comes at a price. But if you want to build your presence organically, a good way to start would be social media, through Instagram or through Twitter in the recent times, which has become more popular among self-motivated entrepreneurs who are in such as you, for example. Nutritionists are very, very active on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, they're extremely active. They're sending out messages to people saying that, I am so and so, so and so. You give a brief profile about yourself, and then also share your other channels of, getting the service. So your website can always help, but how people get to your website or how people get to know more about you can happen only if there is a way that you respond to them once they ask a question. And that is very easy on social media. right? So a good way to start would be through social media handles. You starting a social media handle and promoting that handle is very, very important. I think that's a very easily doable, digital marketing strategy.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions, girls? Please go on.
Likita is asking, recently started a small business on Instagram, handmade products. How can I increase my following? Is promoting my page necessary? Organically, you can promote. There's inorganic methods and organic methods to gaining followers on these Instagram pages, right? So one way to organically increase your following would be to follow pages that are doing already well. You are into handmade products right now. You have to sort of sit down and find out some key players in the same market, say other people who are also doing handicrafts or handmade products, and the people that they are following or people who are following them. So what you do is that you target those people, and then you kind of start following those people, and that what that does is that you are making them aware of your presence or your existing in that same market. So it requires a little bit of time from your end to kind of sit down and look at different players within. Suppose you're making candles or whatever it is that you're dealing with, there are so many people who are also making candles on Instagram, and it's very important that you go and see what their following is, or who they're following, or who is following them. Followers, whether you're being followed or they are following them, either which way it works, because they're all your potential clients. Because if they are interested in them, it's very highly likely that they'll be interested in your products as well. So that is one organic way of doing, is to kind of go around and see which players are existing and tapping their existing following. That's an organic way to do it. An inorganic way to do it is through, there are a lot of ways to gain followers, but those followers may or may not translate to actual leads, to actual, people who are willing to buy your products. There's very, very high chance that your followers keeps increasing, but proportionately your sales won't go high. So that will only happen organically, and it's always better to kind of reach your audience organically than inorganically, especially on Instagram, because it's an interactive platform, and you have a lot of flexibility in terms of sort of showing what you want to, because you post a particular picture on Instagram and that speaks volumes, right, about the kind of product that you're promoting, what are your other offerings and everything else. Another easier way to do social media marketing or Instagram, like increasing your follower base, is to, of course, do something called as SEO. SEO is search engine optimization, and that happens through keyword search. Keyword search is, suppose I were to Google Hyderabad candles on Google. I would probably get the top 10 results, but if, say, I'm able to find your store or your Instagram handle in the first 10 results, that means your presence in the market is very strong, and that there's very high chance that I will click on that particular link and buy from you, compared to, say, you not doing search engine optimization. So your result when I do the Google search will probably fall in the 10th page or the 12th page of the search results. So for these things, you can talk to digital media marketing experts or like digital media agencies and all that. So they will help you with these things. Be very, very, wary of lead generations, because getting followers is not a big deal, because nowadays we're in a world where everything can be bought. Followers can be bought. There are people who are able to increase your followers in a matter of an hour. You can have, say, 10,000 followers, 1 lakh followers. But what is the point when that's not really giving you any sale, or that's not translating into revenue? So I would say it's better you have a smaller set of followers who are going to buy your product repetitively compared to having a large set of followers but not having translating their your followers into potential customers. So that I think is the ways that you can increase your follower count. What you can also do is on Facebook, you also have something called Facebook Business, and you can kind of see which post you want to push forward. For this, there's a lot of YouTube videos, and you can just sort of understand Instagram for business. And there's a lot of modules on which you can sort of understand how to use Instagram for business, and you choose what you want to push towards your audience. So those are Instagram ads. So Instagram ads are also cheap, effective, and highly likely that you will get more followers through that.
Any other questions, girls? I think we can wind up now.
You're welcome, Likhita. How many of you are actually planning to start a business?
Okay, girls, come on now. You have to answer this.
Because there's people from different education streams, right?
Raise your hands.
I don't think nobody's raising hands. Surekha Reddy. Oh, there's quite a few people are raising.
Bindu, Sara.
Okay, even if you don't want to talk to me right now, you can just type what business you're looking at starting, which field or which industry. Or you can just tell me your business ideas and maybe we can have a chat regarding that.
Come on, girls. This is a golden opportunity. You won't get ma'am again.
That's not true. You can always catch hold.
Yes, somebody's asking something.
Surekha is asking, I think.
Is there a question in the chat box?
Okay, ma'am, I have one last question to ask.
Yes, please tell me, Madhu.
Yeah, so there's something called Google AdWords, Google AdWords Manager. Yeah, not to make you a little conscious, as a founder of Pro Square, is it that you followed this Google AdWords? And what is the impact that makes on your business when you say PRO and the relative words that comes in the Google search? And it's like it's one of the most best ways of digital marketing.
Right.
So how do you suggest this in the context of entrepreneurships or maybe at a startup of business?
Right. So that's a great question, Madhuri. The thing is that with Google ad search is one of the best tools when it comes to digital marketing and increasing your online presence. When it comes to my entity, since it's an entirely service-based organization, our business model itself is on reference basis. The entire client base that we've had for so long, and we have about 160 clients and counting, is through word of mouth reference. Is that, say you take a service from me today, and if you like my services, you'd probably tell, say, 5 of your friends, saying that, okay, if you want anything related to business, you can reach out to these people, right? So far, in the last couple of years, we didn't ever have to turn to search engine optimization or Google ad search, for that matter, to kind of push us and put us out there. We have so far dependent on word of mouth marketing, people marketing, it's called, to kind of increase our presence and to kind of increase our client base over time. But where Google, and the sole reason is that it's a conscious choice, right? That we had to make in terms of putting ourselves out there. One reason is that I'll tell you is that as a professional body, there's something called as code of conduct for chartered accountants, where you're not supposed to be soliciting clients. That is actually something. You can obviously call yourself a chartered accountant or a chartered accountant firm. However, you cannot advertise to people saying that XYZ is doing so and so activity, come and take our services. That's something that we had to be very wary of. And that's why even if you were to take a look around you, the typical CA firms that you find around you, they'll only have a board set up, but you will never ever find somebody advertising a chartered accountant or a chartered accountant firm, or not just chartered accountants, but in general, legal services or company secretary services or any professional body that is registered in India. If you are a practicing professional certified by the statutory bodies, you are not, there's something called as code of conduct where you're not supposed to go out and solicit clients. So one of the key reasons why most of the consulting firms keep it very low is because of that, is because most people who operate these firms happen to be practicing professionals, and they have to kind of adhere to a set of rules prescribed by these bodies that certify them or prescribe to certain memorandums that they're members of. So that's one reason why that was a conscious choice not to do so. However, where Google Ad Search comes into great effort, I mean, where it can play a very, very important role and a great launch pad is for consumer tech companies. Is for companies that are going to target a larger set of audience, like say Swiggy. Swiggy is a consumer tech company, so is Zomato, and consumer tech company is any company that you're going to be using on a daily basis, or that you could be using on a daily basis, right? Us as an entity, which is a service entity, and we typically, our set of services itself are so narrow, that we will not be providing the exact same service to you every single day. Right, so that for us is not a priority, and whoever wants our services can come to us whenever they feel like. So it's not a push model. So Google Ad Search works on something called as a push model technology, where they take inputs that you give them and they kind of push it out to a larger set of people when they do a Google search, right? For us, for entities that are more narrow in terms of the services that they offer, the push model will not work. They are mostly going to use something called as a pull model, where you will come to us as and when you require services. We don't have to necessarily put ourselves out there. That is not required as of now. And that again is really a conscious choice that you make over time, when you realize that what is required and what's not required. For us, we have not reached a point where we have to spend a lot of money or any kind of money on, say, putting ourselves online or putting ourselves in a spotlight, giving us that extra bit of push. The time hasn't come. Of course, it'll come for every entity, that will come, because at the end of the day, the world is moving online, right? Everybody is moving online. But at what point you put that extra effort to put your company out there is depending, because again, marketing is a fairly expensive affair. And is the requirement there is the question. And typically for entities that are going to survive based on a set number of services, like mine, or Miss Nasreen, who is a nutritionist, is not on a daily basis. Her clients or my clients would be requiring our services as and when they require. That's not the case with consumer tech companies or companies that are entirely present at all times. So that's the reason why that's one thing that we had consciously made a choice to not keep ourselves out there. I hope I was able to answer your
Okay,
question.
thank you so much. Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
I think there's some chats. Surekha is asked. Bindu is asking what made me start your own business. Honestly speaking, I was very fed up working for someone else. So that's why I started my own business. But other than that, I think I've always wanted to be my own boss from a very young age. So that's one thing that pushed me to this path. And yeah, I like I said, I was a consultant with a lot of other consulting firms before I started my own practice or before I started my uh, fintech company. But it was great. I don't have any complaints with regards to those things. But again, there's always, at the end of the day, I felt like I wasn't adding too much of value to many people. And so I decided to start my own company, which was adding, I don't know how many people it's added value to, but a lot of people that I've employed have been very thankful to me. And I think at the end of the day, it really depends on how satisfied you are with your work, whether you're employed or whether you have your own business. It's about you going to bed satisfied at night. And I think that is the key to living a longer life. And so that's why I had started my own business. How did you face the things when you started your own business? Does anyone supported you or you did everything? I was on my own. For the first business, I had a business partner who was a tech guy because it was a fintech company. I was taking care of all the financial related um, issues, and he was taking care of all the tech related issues because it was an app based model. So it was basically a partnership between me and him. uh, and then the consulting firm is run solely by me. I am the only person who's running the show. Otherwise, I had not really gotten any support from anybody. There have been a lot of mentors for me. Mentors play a very crucial role in shaping up your thoughts, in shaping up your ideas and implementing them, how best to implement them. You can gain a lot of insights by interacting with certain people. um, in terms of, say, my family doesn't come, I don't come from a typical like business family. I am the first generation entrepreneur. Most of my extended family is comes from an employment background, so I don't have too much of dependency on them as well in terms of taking their inputs and all. So whatever I mean, however far I've come, it's all because of the mentors that I've mentorship I've gotten from different people that I've never met in my life before. And that's what I'm very, very grateful for. So that's that. And I think there's more questions. Since everything is work from home due to situation, I want to ask, how can I begin influencing people on mental health and create my portfolio, as I'm a psychology student and I want to pursue a career in the same field? That's a wonderful thought, Tasleem. That's an excellent thought. And I think that is the need of the hour, to be very honest. Most people are very, very depressed sitting at home and, always hearing bad things being told to them. Uh, one way to do it is, of course, like I mentioned, through social media. Everybody, no matter what, is always browsing through either WhatsApp or Instagram and all of these things nowadays. So it's fairly easy for you to interact with people if you put yourself out there. Um, you can contact me later on after the session. Maybe I will share a couple of contacts that could probably help you in terms of putting yourself out there as a therapist or something of that kind. But that's a very, very good idea. I highly appreciate you for taking that kind of an initiative right now. So that's that. At what age have you started your business? When I was 21, I started. I'm planning for online gardening startup by name Prakriti. Can you tell me some tips how to go about it? Doing it online. Are you selling products?
Yes, ma'am.
You're selling products. Okay. So one way is to list your products online with existing e-commerce platforms like Amazon and Flipkart. It's cheaper. It's also more effective, but don't go for the Amazon fulfilled ones because they are more expensive. I'm sure you know that there are some sellers who are Amazon fulfilled, and then there are some sellers who are not Amazon fulfilled, right? When you go to Amazon, you can see those things in right below the product. Don't go for the fulfilled one because that's a little bit more expensive than the non-fulfilled one, and that's going to cut down a lot of costs for you. You can use your own packaging material and all that, and list your products online. I will share a link with you that will help you in sort of um, setting up a step-by-step process in order to list your products online on different platforms in India, like Amazon, Flipkart, and Snapdeal also, I think. So you can just ping me at any point in time. I think you'll have my number, or you can take it from one of your faculty members. So that should probably help you a lot. Otherwise, you can attend a lot of sessions online that Amazon keeps posting every once in a while, to encourage people to start posting for them, because that for them is a revenue generating activity, and it will also help you put yourself out there. Side by side, I also encourage you to start another Instagram handle so that you can reach out to people. Hopefully you can also create a WhatsApp group where you can post about plants, gardening techniques, different techniques and all that. And that should help you sort of gain a customer base. Another very easy thing to do is, if you're living in a community or a complex, you can put up ads in your society itself about the kind of products you're selling. I think because gardening is a household activity, and it's easier to target your existing community to kind of put your products out there. Is it necessary to do a master's for successful business? Does any failure affect your mental health? Masters is not required, but I shouldn't be saying that while talking here, because there's faculty here and they're probably going to take my case at a later point in time. But education is very important. Education for sure is very important. Is masters necessary to do business? No. Business is a very hands-on thing. Um, it's a very practical thing, and despite, even if you do MBA from a top tier university, if you're not able to do things hands on after you graduate, it's honestly not going to make too much of a difference. What MBA does is it polishes you. It polishes your existing skills, or it gives you an overview of what your life is going to be like if you were to enter into the business field as either say on a managerial level or as an entrepreneur, either which ways. But when it comes to becoming an entrepreneur itself, an MBA is not necessary, or it's not going to help you in terms of effectively doing your business. It's going to give you a big picture, of course. It'll give you a lot of keywords, key tools, and all of these fancy words that you can use when you're talking about your business to people. But will it actually help you in doing your business better? Highly unlikely, especially given the current scenario, because the business environment itself is changing so fast. It's always evolving from what it was yesterday. It's not today, right? So what is there in the textbooks will not help you in terms of doing your business in an effective manner. It's going to give you great insights, lot of great case studies, but these case studies can be found online despite you not doing your MBA course and all that. You can just Google it and read up, a lot of things online. So that I think should answer. And education is very important. It's very important to keep on updating yourself, whether or not it's formal education is entirely up to you. Does any failure affect your mental health? Of course, failure affects your mental health, which is why I think you can talk to Tasleem, who can sort of, guide you on not losing hope, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to realize that failure is just a delay. It's not the end of the world. It's failure has always proven to be the starting point of a lot of successes, of a lot of success stories. So if you have failed at any point in time, if you failed repetitively, just know that you're becoming a better person. Just know that, better things are on your way. And it's very important to take failure in a sportive manner, right? It's extremely important. In fact, if you haven't failed, it means you haven't taken any risk in life, and it's very important that you fail, especially as a startup founder or an entrepreneur. It teaches you a lot. So it's the earlier you fail, the better it is for you, to be honest with you. How do I contact you, ma'am? Thank you for your inputs. You can contact me. I think you'll have, either I can put it over here. I'll just type my number and my email. You can contact me here, or you can take my contact from Sujata ma'am. They can probably help you contacting me. What is the one piece of advice you would give to all of us who are wishing to start a new startup? Whatever it is that you're starting, you calculate your risk. You don't just start because you're passionate, start because you want to make an impact. And the impact that you want to make should also be calculated, right? Multiple people have multiple ideas, but how you execute it is what is going to make the difference. So always have a plan in mind and make sure that plan is flexible. Don't make that plan as a set of rules that you're going to follow. A plan is never a set of rules. A plan has to be flexible. A plan has to have modifications based on a lot of things you find out every day and things like that. So planning and strategizing along with great execution is what is going to make your business successful, whichever business it is that you start. And I think most importantly, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to start. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to repeat that all over again. That's what is going to make you a better person and a better business person, especially.
If we don't have any questions, do we have any more questions, girls? Thank you, ma'am. That was a wonderful session, says Shreya.
Made it very clear about it now. Thank you so much. You can contact me at any point in time. Especially because now I'm working from home full time, so I'll mostly be free to take any of your calls. You can even call me. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. So I'm always here to do any sort of hand holding or any sort of support that you'd require. It was great interacting with you all. I was expecting more. I did already, Tasleem. You can just scroll up a little bit. You can see my email. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Samhita, for this wonderful session. We really appreciate you so patiently and so sweetly answering all the questions of our students. We would like to present you with a certificate of appreciation, of course, virtually. And it was really a pleasure having you with us on this day, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time and interaction.
Thank you.
I request Ms. Madhuri, ma'am, to propose the vote of thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Nasreen, ma'am. Yeah. So good morning to everyone, and I take this privilege to propose the formal vote of thanks on behalf of Institutions Innovation Cell IIC of St.Ann's College for Women. This is Madhuri Paul, Assistant Professor, Department of MCA, standing before you to witness the success and marking an end to this session. I thank Almighty God for His blessings in the very tough times of second wave of COVID, for safeguarding all of us here. I thank our dynamic principal, Dr. Sister Amrita, for her constant support and encouragement all through the year for different activities happening in the college. I would like to place on records and the special thanks to our guest speaker for the day, Ms. Samhita, founder of ProScott, for her enriching words of motivation towards this successful startup founder and enlightening us through certain facts of knowledge on entrepreneurship skills and digital marketing as well. Thank you so much, Ms. Samhita. Last but not least, I would like to thank our IAC President, Dr. Venugopal Rao, and Vice President, Dr. Srikala ma'am, who made this program successful in organizing things effectively. Next, my special thanks to all the committee members of IIC who has supported and worked out tirelessly all through the event for making this happen. Finally, I would fail if I don't thank all the participants today who made this program a grand success. So thank you one and all. Stay indoors and stay safe. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Madhuri. Thank you, Nasreen, ma'am.
Thank you, Samhita, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and making this event a grand success. Let us all raise for the name.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Girls, feedback form is put up in the chat box. Please, you can all fill up the feedback form and get your certificates.
Ma'am, have you taken a photograph, ma'am? A group photo copy?
Yes, I have.
I want even the student coordinators to switch on their cameras.
Let us all take a photograph. A group photo,
Samhita, ma'am,
please.
you also please switch on your camera for some time.
Sure.
I want the student
mine is not on.
coordinators also. Kavya, Amani, Nurunisa.
Copy, we can't see you.
Yeah, we can't see you properly.
Kavya and Noor, can you please on your video? Ma'am, I'm having some camera issues. I can't on it.
Ma'am, I think you can present the first slide, ma'am. Title slide. Main slide.
Yes, Sujata?
Ma'am, you can present the main slide so that the pic it is visible. Main slide, ma'am, first slide, the title.
First slide?
Hi, ma'am.
Yeah, wait.
The title. First slide.
Is it okay, Sujata?
Yeah, it's okay, ma'am. Copy, you can take one pic copy with this slide. Girls, some of you are saying that you didn't get.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Poppy.
Thank you.
First 100 will be generated today, and next, yes, you will get your certificate. If any issues are there, you can please, you have my number with you all, so you can get back to us.
Thank you, Samhita ma'am, once again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
nice
much
day ahead.
for
Bye-bye.
being, such a wonderful audience, and I hope you all the best for your future. And I hope I see a lot more entrepreneurs from St. Anne's, especially coming out of IIC.
Yes, we really hope so.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
And I would like to thank my team. In spite of being a summer vacation, you all supported, and we had made it success. That's it. Actually, we got our summer vacation started from today, ma'am.
Oh,
But
is
because,
it?
yeah. But
Okay.
because we had already scheduled the event, we don't want to postpone it. So
Right,
we
right.
carry forward.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Despite being on vacation, I'm seeing a lot
Yeah.
of interaction, and that's pretty great. That's amazing. So congratulations on the session, all of your committee members as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So thank you, and hope to interact with most of you at a later point in time. Stay safe and take care of yourselves.